Hello, everyone. We're gonna get started right now. So welcome to this presentation of how to make study abroad affordable. My name is Kate Ostroff from the UCLA International Education Office, and I'm here with my colleague Andrew Bottom. Our office, the International Education Office, is the one-stop shop for, sorry, the slide's not turning. Let's try one more time. There we go. We are the one-stop shop for study abroad at UCLA. In our office, you can connect with advisors and coordinators like ourselves, as well as be connected with other students who have previously studied abroad to hear about their experiences and learn more about programs that might be interesting to you. So Andrew, who is the director of global internships at UCLA, and I, who is an advisor for our programs, we'll be leading this webinar about how to make study abroad affordable as part of our Global Learning Opportunities Week. This week, we are showcasing a number of study abroad related resources and unique opportunities, as well as funding information such as this one. So as Andrew said, this session is being recorded and will be available in the on-demand section of our GLOW website, which again is on our screen. So ieo.ucla.edu/GLOW. So our agenda for today, we're first just going to touch briefly on COVID and how that relates to study abroad, where things are at now. We're going to identify affordable programs, or how to identify affordable programs, talk about how financial aid works with UCLA study abroad, discuss some scholarship opportunities that are available to you, and then go over some budgeting tips that can help in affording study abroad as well. And then finally talk about next steps. So study abroad and COVID, I know it's on everyone's mind, so we're not going to go into too much detail here, but we just want to let you know that we are really excited to announce that study abroad has resumed once again. So we have Bruins abroad around the world currently for fall 2021 on a number of different programs. And we are hopeful that pending kind of the current situation in the world, that situation stays the same, that we will continue to be able to send more and more students abroad for ongoing terms. If you want more information about kind of how COVID has been affecting study abroad, as well as the health and safety measures that we're taking, you can check out our 15-minute presentation specifically about COVID and study abroad. It's on our GLOW page, and I'll address this in more detail. The one thing I would want to leave you with right now is just about your passport. So we strongly recommend, if you are able to renew or apply for your passport now. The pandemic has taken a toll on the US State Department in terms of passport processing. There's a backlog of about 4 to 5 months from door to door, even if you pay for expedited processing. So we strongly encourage students who are able to apply for their passport at this time. There are a few programs that do require you to get a student visa or a visitor visa well before going. And a lot of programs do require you to have your passport several months prior to your actual departure date. So just to keep that in mind. And the other thing is just that I always tell people your passport's good for 10 years when you renew it. So even if you don't travel abroad immediately, if you change your mind, you hopefully would be able to still use it sometime in the next decade. And just to note, this is regarding US passport holders traveling with American passports. So if you are from another country, just are traveling with a passport from another country, just make sure to check with your own nationality's passport processing office, because we have heard of similar delays around the world. So getting into our current presentation, let's see. Trying to go through and click to the next slide. Andrew, I don't know if you might want to work the slides for this, because my computer's having some issues. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
All right, sorry about that, Kate. So as Kate was saying, so a big part of this presentation is to help you identify affordable programs. And so a part of that, one thing we do want to mention, there's kind of this common myth that when you study abroad, you oftentimes are paying double to both go to school at UCLA and to study abroad. That is not true. You don't pay double when you study abroad. You simply pay for your study abroad program. In some cases, depending on what type of program you select, the term, the location, the amount of time that you're abroad, your program could be cheaper the same cost or more expensive than studying on campus at UCLA. So as we go throughout this presentation, you'll definitely see the differences between the types of programs you can select, which is a huge, factor in how expensive your program might be. So as we go into talking about these programs, I first wanted to discuss the different programs that are offered by our office. So you have a little idea when we say travel study or global internships, what that really is. So first, UCLA Travel Study, that is our faculty-led program. This is where UCLA faculty take UCLA students abroad during the summer specifically. Most programs are between about 3 to 5 weeks long. You take UCLA courses while you're on those programs, usually between about 8 to 10 units. Sometimes there's some additional 189 credit that you can get as well, but usually it's 2 courses that you take during the summer with UCLA faculty abroad. We also have the UCLA Global Internship Program. This is a summer program only as well. It's basically 2 months of doing an internship abroad or virtually, as well as taking academic courses, a minimum of an internship course, a maximum of 8 units. So as a secondary course, you can also take. They're non-paid internships, and you are doing, again, about 8 weeks of an internship abroad or virtually, while you do 10 weeks of summer coursework. UCLA Global Cities is another program that we offer through our office. What occurs through this program is students will spend summer session A at a host university abroad, where they will attend the courses with students are from that host university. So for instance, Milan is one of the locations, Barcelona and Amsterdam as well. And then in summer C, you'll come back to UCLA, and with that same cohort of students, both UCLA and students from abroad, you will do summer session C back at UCLA. So you get the experience of going abroad and getting to know a cohort of students in their hometown, and then those same students coming to UCLA and getting to know what life is like in LA, where you're the host. UCAP is the UC Education Abroad program for the whole UC system. These programs occur throughout the entire year. So we have summer, fall semester, fall quarter, winter quarter, spring semester, year-long programs that you can attend. These are courses that are oftentimes are taught in a host country by host country instructors. There's various types of programs through UCAP. You have the traditional university immersion, where you'll attend a university in a country abroad. We also have more specific programs that are focused on mainly language and cultural immersion. So we have special focus ones on whether it's internships or research that you might do abroad. So UCAP definitely has a huge catalog of opportunities throughout the entire year. And then as far as when to go, I'm gonna throw this over to Kate.
Yeah, so when you go abroad can make a big difference as far as the cost of the program. So just some things to note as far as going abroad during the school year. So fall programs generally are a bit more expensive than being at UCLA. And the reason for this is because of the quarter versus the semester system. So most universities, not just abroad, really everywhere, are on the semester system. And because of this, most fall programs are fall semester programs. And what that means is you typically start in August, like mid-August or so, but you still continue into like end of December. So you're typically there a bit longer, in which case you end up getting more units, you're spending more time abroad, and then other expenses end up increasing. So for instance, you pay rent for about a month longer, you need to eat for an extra month and things like that. So because of that, the amount of time you are abroad in fall is longer and the cost generally is a bit more. If you were to do a day-to-day comparison, it actually probably is pretty similar to UCLA, but if you're just kind of comparing a fall at UCLA versus a fall study abroad, that is something worth noting. Spring semester, this is where it gets a little tricky to explain sometimes, but I'll try and keep it simple. But that is the shortest thing I'd say is that spring semester is typically one of the best times to go abroad to save money if you're thinking about going abroad during this school year. And it's because of the same reason we just talked about. A spring semester typically runs from January to May or so. And if you think about that, that means you're abroad for winter quarter and spring quarter. A spring semester is almost always cheaper and sometimes a lot cheaper than 2 quarters. So because of that, when you replace your winter and spring quarters with one spring semester, you will almost always save money and sometimes a lot of money. And we especially want to highlight for non-California residents or non-residents in general, you would often save a lot of money because the out-of-state fees also are lessened because one semester is shorter than 2 quarters. It is true that sometimes a student would end up getting less units or less courses. It's not always the case, so it's definitely worth looking into. But for a lot of students, they're still able to very much stay on track, graduate on time, and have no problem, and find a program that actually saves them a lot of money during their school year, which is pretty neat. A year abroad is about the same as being at UCLA, more or less. We'll go into some examples in a little bit. I actually found they typically tend to be a little bit cheaper, actually, for a full year. So if you place a full year abroad with a full year at UCLA with a full year abroad, they tend to be around the $30,000 mark for an in-state student. UCLA, for reference, is about $36,000 this year. So about the same, but often actually even a little bit less. And we do want to mention there are a lot of multi-site programs you'll see, and they are really attractive options, and we understand why, and they are really neat opportunities. But we do just want to mention, if one of your goals is to identify affordable programs, these are programs that we would typically recommend avoiding, or at the very least, really making a note of the price before you get too far in and comparing it to non-multi-site programs. When you are traveling between locations, that just is adding different costs that you wouldn't typically have when you're staying in one place. And also sometimes because your housing is going to be changing between different ones, different places where you are. It does sometimes add a little bit more cost to it.
So now talking about location. So the location that you decide to do your study abroad program will definitely affect your overall budget, because when you think about it, the cost of housing, local transit, meals, airfare, your visa requirements are all going to play big factors, into how much it costs to study abroad. So whether it's a large city or a small city, whether it's really hard to get there by a flight, maybe it's $2,000 for a flight versus $500 for a flight. If you're living, let's say, in a city like London that has a higher cost of living than even Los Angeles, versus living in a city that maybe has a lower cost of living than Los Angeles, then you're going to see big difference, in the amount of money that you're spending while you're abroad. Below, we kind of mentioned some of the locations that we tend to say are more affordable and more expensive, but please take this with a grain of salt, because it really depends, again, on the term you're going, and the length of time, and also of course your spending habits, and if it's in a large city in Europe versus a small city in Europe. But in general, our more expensive programs tend to be in Africa, Australia, and Europe, and generally more affordable locations tend to be in Mexico, Central and South America, Hong Kong, Japan, and throughout Southeast Asia. So something to note as you begin looking for programs, but again, there's various factors that go into play. And so that's why we're trying to kind of break those down for you all, so you have everything to consider when you're choosing a program. So we'll go in here first to talk a little bit about summer options. So we didn't discuss summer in the previous slide when we talked about different terms, because summer I know is an extra term for students, but we do want to mention that summer is one of the most popular times for students to study abroad. And so we threw up here just some different options of what a budget might look like, whether you were doing a UCAP program, like the Contemporary Mexico program for 5 weeks, the Global Internship Program, let's say in Colombia for 8 weeks, travel study in New York for 4 weeks, the Global Cities Program in Amsterdam, which is 10 weeks, or UCD Ireland, so UC Dublin for 8 weeks. So you can notice all of these program lengths are different. They're in different places around the world. So we have North America with Mexico, we have Colombia and South America, North America with New York City, Europe with Amsterdam, Ireland, also Europe as well. And you can see that the prices vary from on the lower end in the upper 6,000s up to in UCD Ireland around 14 grand. You'll also know that on the lower end, we have 8 units of academics with the Global Internship Program, higher end about 12 and a half with the Global Cities, but also 2 weeks more of time. So there's a lot of factors, again, you have to consider. So we ask you to look at the full budget, the full picture of the program. It's also important to note that, for instance, the program fee might be similar. So like in the case of New York Sociology, New York, it's a little bit over 5 grand. You have a couple other programs that are, mid 4,000s, upper 4,000s, but you can see that the other budget expenses, which would include like your meals throughout your time in New York, are a lot higher than the meals that are budgeted, let's say, for Mexico or Colombia. So you can see how that costs. Maybe the program fee was with your housing, wasn't as that it was around the same cost, but then those meal costs definitely increase a lot, in a city that's a little more expensive. So we'll move on over to talking about fall quarter classes and
sorry, Andrew, I think I muted you for a second. So as far as fall, it's similar to how we look at summer. We just have a few fewer options to compare. So what you can see is that fall at UCLA, just for reference, is about 12,100, we'll say, to round for an in-state student. That's 10 weeks. Most students take anywhere from, you can take 12 to 19 units. And when you include all your expenses, this includes your housing, so your room and board, your personal expenses, as well as your tuition and UCLA fees. That's where you get that $12,100. So by comparison, like we said, there are a few fall quarter programs. So for instance, we have the ICU program in Japan. It's a 15-week program, so it actually is a bit longer than our quarter. You take a similar number of units, 15 to 21, just depending on the classes that you pick. And the overall cost is actually very similar. So it's about 12,800. And if you actually look at kind of a key factor that's different is we're including airfare. So if you live locally in California, you're not usually flying to Los Angeles, but you do have to fly to Japan, that's an extra $1,000. And with that, it really actually ends up being cheaper if you were to take that out. And if you obviously fly to Los Angeles normally, we're not considering that in. So for your own personal budgeting, you may want to put that in just to compare for yourself. If you say, oh, well, I normally fly from New York, that's about a $600 flight, add that in for yourself for UCLA when you're comparing apples to apples. But like I mentioned, most fall programs are fall semester. So we have Carlos Tercero in Spain is our example. This is a pretty standard fall semester program. What you'll see is it's about 17 weeks long. So it is significantly longer than UCLA. But in turn, you take almost double the units that you're taking at UCLA. So you're taking 23 to 25 units on this program. But the overall cost isn't actually double. It is more. It's $18,300 for this program when you again include your housing, your room and board, your personal expenses, as well as your tuition and program fees, and your airfare is included as well. You can see all of that adds up to be about $18,000. So like we said, a fall semester is going to be more than a fall quarter, specifically largely because you are there longer and it is more units. But proportionally, it's not necessarily double the price or anything like that. Similarly, let me see if I can get to the next slide. I might need you to do it, Andrew. My computer's not working with this. The programs that we offer, let's see, the next slide is going to talk about our year-long programs. Let's see, having some technical difficulties here. Let's see. It's not switching over. Andrew, I don't know if you can see on your end. Sorry, everyone, hang tight. Okay, we're jumping ahead a few slides. I think it's one back from what it's on right now. Let's see. I can't hear you, Andrew. I don't know if you're trying.
I can't.
Sorry, everyone. If not, we can skip that slide and I can explain it and we'll have if that's easier.
I can't. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I have no control over the my board right now. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Oh, no.
So I can't unmute, or I can't unmute myself.
Okay. No, you're
touch the controls, so I can only go forward or back. But it should be. I see it on my screen. It shows the full year program, so I'm assuming it's showing that to everyone.
No, it's showing financial aid abroad on my end.
I'm gonna stop.
Hang on, everyone. Sorry about this.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, let me know, Andrew, if you want me to share the presentation if it ends up.
Could you share the presentation, Kate?
Yeah, let me try and do that on my end.
or no?
Let's see. Okay. Actually, can you, here, okay, I should be able to, okay, this is gonna stop your screen controlling, Andrew, just so you know. And then we are gonna share this portion right here. Okay. Let me know. I think, yeah, because I can't see anyone else. So Andrew, does that look good? Okay, cool. Okay, so jumping back. So programs abroad for a full year. Here, we'll do that better. Programs abroad for a full year. So similar to fall, this you can see a UCLA year on campus is about $36,000. That includes, again, your program fees, your tuition, your room and board, everything that you'd need to study at UCLA and live in Los Angeles. By comparison, you can see two different locations in very different locations around the world. So our Yonsei program in Korea, as well as our Lund program in Sweden. They are a little bit longer. So the program in Korea is about 10 months, in Sweden, 10 and a half months. Units wise, UCLA, you have a bit of a range. I know most students tend to take like 36 to 40 some units, but you can take up to 57. At Yonsei, you actually take a similar number on the higher end, so 42 to 54. In Sweden, everyone takes 48 units. And when you look at that bottom number, that total cost, when you include everything, including airfare, it's actually cheaper to study abroad in Korea or in Sweden while you're doing a full year abroad. So in Korea, it's about $29,000. In Sweden, it actually is almost $9,000 cheaper for an in-state student to go. It would be $27,000. And we also want to point out, just for non-residents or out-of-state students, it would actually end up being significantly cheaper if you were to go, or I guess similarly cheaper if you were to go during the full year, because your out-of-state fees would be exactly the same. So you would just add it on to your UCLA or add it on to the other, but you'd still save that $9,000. By comparison, I know we don't have a slide for it, but spring semester would be kind of a flip side of what we looked at with fall, where it would actually end up being about 24,000 for UCLA, but only about 15 to 18,000, maybe 20,000 for a UC program. So I realize we didn't have a slide for that, but I think in identifying lower cost programs, it's important to note the spring semester programs will almost always be several $1,000s cheaper, if not significantly cheaper, for a UCLA, a spring semester program. So Andrew's having some technical difficulties. So I'm gonna go through and we'll just keep going. And Andrew, if you're able to jump back in, just let me know. Let's see. Okay, so I'll just hang on one second, everyone. I'm gonna message Andrew just to make sure everything's okay with him. But Andrew, I don't know if you can give me a thumbs up. Are you able, because I can't see chat or questions or anything. Are you able to see and hear on my end okay? Like what I'm saying?
I can hear you, but I can't see anything. So I'm gonna jump off the Zoom and try to get back on.
Okay, sounds good. I don't know if everyone actually has the chat open. If anyone's able to either put in the chat or put in the questions, are you able to see the presentation? Okay. Yes. Okay, good. Awesome. Then I'm just going to keep going and we're going to have Andrew come back. Sorry about this, everyone. Okay, so financial aid, as you can see on the screen. Thank you everyone for answering. So chat is open. We didn't mean for that to be, but that's good. I'm glad it is. So financial aid, this is a big part of how study abroad can be affordable for a lot of students. So can financial aid be used for study abroad? Yes, that is the big answer we want to emphasize for everyone. So all eligible students can use UCLA financial aid for any study abroad program affiliated with the UC system. What does this mean and what do students need to do? Students would simply just apply for FAFSA. That's the biggest thing. So ensure that your FAFSA is filed by the March priority deadline. If you are studying abroad the summer of your senior year, so studying abroad after senior year, just keep in mind that you would still have to file one extra FAFSA. And this is because summer is the first term of each FAFSA year. So the current FAFSA you're using now is from summer 2021 till spring 2021. So if you're going to be studying abroad, or applying to study abroad anytime, you just know it's going to be based on your future FAFSAs. And for DACA students, this would be your California DREAM Act application, similarly. For our summer programs, there are a few extra things, but really minimal. So summer travel study and UCLA global internships. There's one extra financial aid application. I usually even just call it a form because it literally takes like a minute to fill out, that students would need to do in addition to FAFSA. And for global studies, it would just be the UCLA summer sessions application. So pretty simple, but mainly just remembering to do your FAFSA. For UCAP programs, it's just your FAFSA that you need to do. What kind of financial aid can I carry over for study abroad? So participating on UCAP or a UCLA summer program means that you are remaining a UCLA student, which is a big benefit in a lot of ways. And one of which is that for your financial aid, you can carry over your federal, state, and university aid with the exception of federal work study. So this includes, as you see below, your Pell Grant, Cal Grant, which doesn't exist in summer, just unrelated to study abroad, but during the school year, all UCLA grants, scholarships that are eligible, Blue and Gold Opportunity Plan, again, not for summer programs, it's just not a summer availability, and then any veterans benefits that you have as well, you would be able to do. So those are all different ways you can help pay for study abroad through financial aid, just like you would on campus. So another big question we get a lot is, will the financial aid that you get for study abroad be the same as you do at UCLA? It's not going to be exactly the same, but for a lot of the reasons that we just discussed, the program costs are not exactly the same. So the grant aid that you get will adjust up and down based on the term you go, based on the program that you pick, for all the reasons that we just mentioned. So even the student with the most financial need may have a loan component with their financial aid package when you're not accounting for scholarships. This is especially true in summer, but really varies during the school year. So that's something we just want people to keep in mind. But there's also a lot of programs like we saw that are cheaper than UCLA. You might not need as much money available to you. It just depends. And like we said, that's kind of the next bullet point. The financial aid package financial aid will be budgeting you for the total budget of the program. So those bold numbers we were looking at on previous slides, for the total amounts, that's the amount you would be getting in a financial aid package for whatever study abroad program you pick, whether it's summer, school year, full year, part of a year, whatever. And so kind of why we sort of got into a bit, but we really want to highlight these specific reasons. Why is the financial aid different? So costs can be higher or lower than attending UCLA. That's often, when they're higher, is often why you would end up getting more of a loan component than you would normally get if you pick a program during a term that you would not typically attend, or a program that is more of a cost than you would be spending at UCLA. There are other factors and expenses such as airfare and transportation that just aren't factored into studying at UCLA. But again, if you typically fly to UCLA or you typically have your own expenses that you have outside of it, it might not be new to you. But for a lot of students who don't fly to campus, that is an additional expense that they wouldn't normally have. And then summer aid is a bit more loan heavy, like I kind of alluded to. And that's because, like we said, there is no Cal Grant available. So for a lot of students, that's a big portion of the grant money that they get during the school year. During the summer, whether you do summer sessions or summer at UCLA, or sorry, summer study abroad, the Cal Grant just doesn't exist. And so money has to come from somewhere. So a lot of that does end up sometimes coming from loans. So that's why we say it may be a bit more loan heavy. And going back to that, even a student with an EFC of 0, an expected family contribution of 0, may still have a loan component that they wouldn't normally have if they were studying during the school year. Andrew, I don't know if you're back with us.
I am back. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. So you might have to advance the slides though, now that
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Well, sorry everyone about that, but I am back. So want to talk a little bit about scholarship opportunities. So we know that the study of our programs can be daunting to look at a full cost of how much a program might cost, but we of course have a lot of opportunities for students to get scholarships because we want to, get students abroad as much as possible. So some of the scholarships, they really vary. Some are based on academics and merit. So, whether it fulfills to be a major or minor, might have some requirements, might look at your GPA and other factors, regarding academics of whether you would be eligible. We have a lot that are based on financial need. So those usually require a FAFSA to be filed. In the case of summer, for some programs, you sometimes have to file your FAFSA for the next year. The special focus programs like internships, research, future plans, sometimes there are scholarships that we have available that do focus more, kind of on your career orientation of what you're hoping to do once you're done graduating. And then also scholarships that are focused on more of your personal narrative, your story, kind of what you're hoping to get out of the program, some of your professional goals. As far as scholarships that we do offer at UCLA. So there are a lot of scholarships that we offer, and so we're not placing them all here. I'm gonna, at the end of this scholarship section, mention a webinar where we do have our Associate Director of Scholarships talking a little bit more in depth about the scholarship opportunities and how to apply. But in general, there are quite a few scholarships available that are UCLA departmental based. So let's say you want to do a travel study program to France, there might be a scholarship that the French department would allow for that or provide for that. There might be a scholarship, for instance, for economics students going abroad. So depending on the department that you are studying in, they may have scholarships available, and we do provide those on our website, the ones that we are aware of. We also have some scholarship funding that's provided directly from the International Education Office, from our office. So for example, we have a UCAP First Gen Scholarship. So for first generation students, they can earn up to $2,000 for their study abroad program if it's through UCAP. For global cities, we have a general global cities scholarship for financial aid eligible students for up to $2,000. Global internships, similarly, they have a program scholarship for up to $3,000 for students who are recipients of financial aid, and up to $1,000 for those who are doing a virtual program. Travel study scholarship provides a 50% off of the program fee for students who are applying for that scholarship. So it can be anywhere from, if program fee is pretty high, it could be, say, $3,000 of the $6,000. If it's lower, it could be $2,000, let's say, but it's a pretty good chunk, obviously, of your study abroad expense. UCAP has various scholarships, so these are not the only ones that are all listed, but one popular scholarship is the UCAP Global Scholarship. They offer $1,000 for students studying in the summer and $2,000 for those doing either a academic quarter or semester or full year program. In addition to local scholarships provided by UCLA and the IEO office, there are a lot of national scholarships that our office likes to promote that are really great opportunities for students to get funding. And so one thing I like to note is that it seems a little scary to say, oh, it's a national scholarship, I'll just be one of a bunch of names, and who knows if I'll receive a scholarship. We want to say that a lot of our students do receive scholarships on the national level, and so it's really important to apply. Specifically, the first one, the Gilman Scholarship, which is for Pell Grant eligible students. This is one based on the U.S. State Department, or from the U.S. State Department, and they give up to $5,000 for students who are studying abroad. And I will say that it's about a 25% recipient rate for those who apply nationally, but just from our own, I would say, qualitative knowledge of UCLA students who are applying to the scholarship, a lot higher than 25% do tend to receive it from UCLA, at least in the few years I've been at the IEO office. So it's something you should definitely apply to if you are a Pell Grant recipient. There is a project that is required at the end when you return to campus, but a great opportunity to get your program funded. The Freeman Scholarship is for students with a financial need who are going to study in Asia, so up to $7,000. For programs for the Freeman Scholarship. Diversity Abroad This is an organization that has a database of various scholarships that can help support our diverse student populations as they go abroad. And so it's an opportunity to research a bunch of different scholarships that you might be eligible for. And then the Bourne Scholarship provides up to $25,000 for students who are studying a critical language. And so that's a great opportunity, obviously, to get funding for your time abroad. So these scholarships are posted on our website. And so I'll show you that here on the next slide. But it's a great opportunity, to get funding for your study abroad. There is a scholarship webinar tomorrow, October 12th at 2:30 p.m. So if you go to our GLOW website, you will be able to access that webinar and learn more in depth about some of these national level scholarships, some of the scholarships that are provided by our office, and then how the application processes work, when things are due. You can also learn more about scholarships on our website in general by going to ieo.ucla.edu/scholarships. We also have a financial aid webinar on Thursday, October 14th at 4 p.m., also part of GLOW Week, where you can learn from the financial aid office some of the important things you need to do in order to apply for financial aid for your study abroad program.
So budgeting, everyone's favorite topic. So how many of you currently track your own spending? That's something to think about outside of study abroad, because budgeting is not just about affording a study abroad program. It's really an important life skill in general. And so it's a really great to start to form this habit now to plan and save, in this case for future program costs, but really in the rest of your life for other things that may come up and the rest of your life, the things you're going to have to pay for. So we just wanted to talk a bit about what personal budgeting as a funding strategy for study abroad can look like, because it's a really great way to help offset some costs and to help kind of limit sometimes the loan portion of financial aid you might be getting. So let's say you've done your research and you've looked at program locations, you found a time that makes sense for you to go, you have a program that you think is within your price range, it's either comparable to UCLA or cheaper than studying at UCLA, you feel good about it. And so using the metaphor of a bucket, we're going to look at how budgeting can be used to offset the cost of that program. So the bucket itself represents the total cost of a program, and you can fill that bucket with any combination of 3 funding sources. You can fill it with free money, money you have to pay back, and personal funding, so savings or budgeting. So the first bucket on the left is a full bucket that shows a program that is fully funded by financial aid, including free money and money that you pay back. So scholarships and grants are free money, loans is money that you pay back. Some people may look at this bucket and say, well, I don't want to have those loans. I don't want to pay half of it in loans, or I can't afford this. Like that's what they see when they say this, or say when they see this. So how can you go through with the program knowing that you will likely have a loan component, but feeling better about what portion you're going to be taking out in loans? So revisiting the bucket on the right hand, by revisioning, can't talk, the bucket so that it looks like the one on the right-hand side. By this, you're introducing a third funding source, your personal savings. You might be able to put the cost of the program within more of your budget or comfort level once you do this, because you're going to make it more affordable and lessen the loan burden, if you will. Applying for scholarships is a great method, like we just talked about, and you should definitely do it to help offset the difference. But we do want to emphasize that scholarships are not a guaranteed way of funding a program. So personal budgeting practices can help you save up for your program and make it more affordable, regardless of whether you end up getting scholarships or not. And then scholarships become a great addition that say, awesome, now I have extra resources even in addition. So let's see, what do these buckets look like? What do these buckets look like in real dollar amounts? So say your total program cost is about $13,000. We'll say it's a summer program. So the bucket on the left where you're paying with financial aid only, you get about $8,000 between the scholarships that you win, the grants that you're offered, and then $5,000 of it comes from loans. The bucket on the right is somebody who ahead of time said, you know what, I'm going to kind of develop a personal budgeting plan, and I'm going to put some personal funds aside to be able to help offset that loan cost. So we still have our $8,000 in grants and scholarships. That's awesome. But now, because we have $2,000 in personal funds that we're adding in, we only need to take out $3,000 in the loans, which for many students might say, okay, that feels like a better number for me. And obviously these numbers can really vary, but just showing you how a little bit can go a long way in the overall cost of your program. And so how does one budget? If you've never done this before, we just wanted to give you some tips. So budgeting for beginners, as we say on here, you can see there's a spreadsheet on the screen, and really what this would look like and how you'd make something like this up. You can download some of these on your own, but you would really just be listing out your monthly expenses by category. So first thing is to see, where's your money going now? Where are you spending money? And a lot of times it surprises people when they realize, like, oh wow, I'm spending this much money on this or this much money on that I really didn't expect that so much of my money was going towards this, or that I was really, spending so much in that area, or just to see where it is. And then separately, you're also going to list out your sources of income. So your campus jobs, off-campus jobs, side hustles, scholarships, financial aid, any money that is coming into you. Where is that coming from and how much is it? And putting that all together and being able to kind of see where you can change things around a little bit can really help. There's also budgeting apps that are really helpful. So I personally use one called Mint. I know UCLA recommends it as well. And it kind of does all this, like, if you're not into Excel, does all that boring work for you. And you just put in kind of what you're spending, or it ties to your credit cards, your bank accounts, your debit cards, and allows you to kind of see where things are going. And it'll offer you tips as well as saving money, or you can even tell it that you want to budget for something specific. It'll help you do that. And UCLA offers some other general financial wellness programs as well. So literally financialwellness.ucla.edu is somewhere we'd recommend going, that can help you with budgeting, that can ultimately kind of aid in your savings for study abroad program costs going forward. So the next steps, Andrew, I think you're going to take over from here.
All right. So as far as next steps, we encourage you to attend any study abroad sessions this week that you're able to. There's a lot of study abroad sessions talking about the specific programs that we spoke about at the beginning, financial aid, scholarships, helping you really kind of narrow down maybe what program you might want to apply towards. It's also an opportunity to kind of clarify your study abroad goals, what you're hoping to accomplish when you're abroad, and then to use our website. So, our website, we'll put it at the end. Actually, I'll show you on the screen at the end. Research and funding opportunities, for yourself, and see, what would make the most sense for you when going abroad, which program to select. And so once you've kind of done this little background research on your own of going to info sessions, looking at our website and seeing what might make sense, for you as a student for studying abroad, then we ask that you, contact us if you have more questions. Talk to academic advisor in your major department to see, how credits might transfer. Talk to the IEO advisors in our office to discuss, what the past experiences of students have been, going on those programs. And then once you feel confident about what you're hoping to do, to finally complete an application online, and hopefully you're able to go abroad this upcoming year, upcoming summer, next year, depending on when you're hoping to go abroad. So we are going to move on here to questions. So if you do have any questions, we ask that you post those in the Q&A function, and we are more than happy to answer any questions that you might have as far about how to make programs affordable, scholarships, financial aid, terms to go abroad, anything that maybe popped into your mind while we were talking. In the meantime, while we're waiting for questions to come in, if you want to go to the next slide, Kate. If you are thinking that you are interested in learning more about studying abroad and are hoping to get program updates and communications about upcoming deadlines, upcoming applications opening, this QR code here will help you get on a list that you'll be able to receive information, updates from our marketing team about how things are proceeding with the study abroad programs. So a question that we have is, for out-of-state students, is it generally more or less expensive for a travel study program? So the great thing about out-of-state students who are applying for a travel study program, or actually for a program in the summer, is there is no non-resident supplemental tuition fee. So if you are doing a travel study program in the summertime, it actually would be the same for a non-resident student, an out-of-state student, as it would be for a California resident. So that's one thing I guess to note for summer programs is it's a great opportunity for non-residents to potentially in a sense pay less for units while they are studying abroad. The next question is to clarify the cost under the UCAP profiles or estimates without financial aid. I'm going to throw that to Kate.
Yeah. So one thing just to triple clarify what Andrew just said is completely right. But I know sometimes people will use travel study and study abroad interchangeably. So for out-of-state students, if you were to study abroad during the school year, so not travel study, for something on UCAP, then it depends on the term that you're going. Fall is, I'd say, almost 95% of the time going to be more expensive, if not 100% of the time. A full year abroad will probably be about the same or cheaper. And spring semester would be cheaper for an out-of-state student. A quarter only program, so we have a couple winter and spring only programs. Quarter length programs would be about the same for a non-resident student. And if you have out-of-state student questions, you can contact us directly about individual programs. It has to do a lot with the length of the time you're going and the term that you're going abroad, but that's generally how it works. But like Andrew said, yeah, travel study programs or anything in the summer is going to be the same price as a resident. So costs under, it was the global internship program. So yes, it would be the same. And it would be the same cost for in-state or out-of-state student, which is really nice. And anything in the summer, global internship or travel study or UCAP, all the same, non-resident or resident. So to clarify, the costs under UCAP profiles are estimates without financial aid. Yes. So the UCAP profile, so the numbers we're sharing or on UCAP's website, that's just like the dollar amount that needs to be received somehow. How it's paid, it could be through financial aid. So when you see that total amount, the cost of the program means this is how much money like you are going to be spending on, or someone's going to be spending on your housing, your room, your board, your food, your flight, your tuition. And then how do you pay for that money could be through financial aid. So if you say my cost of my program is $13,000, is $17,000. So I'm going to apply for financial aid to help pay for that $17,000. Hopefully that makes sense.
Maybe go to the next slide, Kate, while we're waiting for any more questions. So just to note that our office, we still have virtual advising appointments. So the actual office itself is currently closed, but we do have drop-in advising virtually that can be done. So if you do go to our website, which is ieo.ucla.edu, that's our main page. But if you go to the contacts section on our website, you can learn about when the drop-in advising is. Also to make an appointment for a one-on-one advising appointment with a counselor that is more specific to maybe a program you're interested in. So our advisors are divided by region. So depending on what program you're interested in attending, you'll get a different advisor for that program. We have another question. Oh no, I guess that's the three. I thought no one popped up. With that said, if there's no other questions, we just wanted to thank you again for attending this session on making study abroad affordable. Hopefully you're able to learn a little bit more about ways that selecting just a program itself is a big part of making it more affordable to you in the long run. If you have any other questions, please contact our office. We're really happy to answer anything that you have, and we hope to see you on a program soon.